This podcast is proud to be part of the TalkSPORT Fan Network. TalkSPORT. Powered by fans.
Hello and welcome to this week's edition of Red Star, the Trent and Out opposition preview as Forest look back to get back to the Premier League and with a visit to Craven Cottage and Fulham. I'm delighted to be joined by Charlie Shaw from the Fulhamish Podcast, or writer for Fulhamish Podcast, should I say. Charlie, how are you, first of all?
It is a pleasure to be on, mate, and thank you very much for having me.
No problem. Let's recap your last Premier League result. I know you went through in the FA Cup, and this has been recorded just before Forest play Exeter, obviously, as well, just so everyone knows and isn't going, well, you got battered by Exeter if we end up losing to them. But you beat Newcastle away at St James's, Charlie. I mean, a bit of a shock result in a sense, but not, because Fulham are very much capable of beating anyone in this league on their day. What did you make of that game, first of all?
I think that you hit the nail on the head, mate. I think that we are capable of going into any game this season and getting a result. But we've shown in so many performances this season about how inconsistent we are. Like, I think, say that you even look at the first half to the second half, how we, I think that our sort of, like, the way that we attacked even was just so different between the first half and the second half. And I think that shows how inconsistent we are, really. But no, obviously, great result. And believe me, it was a great away day as well. So, yeah, top stuff. What
was so different about that game from many others? Because I remember speaking to a few Fulham fans, and normally, like, away from Craven Cottage, Fulham don't usually travel, especially in the past, they never travel very well. But going somewhere like St James's, where they have been pretty good, but now they've lost. That's back-to-back home games they've lost now against Bournemouth and yourselves, and we played them after you. So we're kind of going, if we can get a good result against Fulham, then against Newcastle, it might look a little bit more rosy for ourselves. But what was the big kind of point of that game that got you over the line, essentially?
Well, I think a lot we're in the first half. We were doing a lot of crosses light into the box, and they were quite directionless, especially from Alex Iwobi, who's been fantastic this season. I think that we struggled, but we moved away from that in the second half, and I think that we tried to use Smith Rowe more centrally, and I think that worked out for us. And I think this season, I've said this in live an article that I've done, I think that we need to utilise Smith Rowe more centrally, and I think that was probably the key that I saw in the game. I think that we used Jimenez more. I think that was certainly key to our second half performance. But in general this season, I think that we have been more positive, and we showed this earlier in the season when we beat you guys 1-0. I think that we are more positive, like away from home, with the way that we play. I think that we struggle to break down low blocks at home. So when you go, away from home, you aren't really playing against a low block at a team like Newcastle. They are going to sort of take the onus on them, and I think that we work better with that. So I think that's sort of been our success, like away from home this season.
What's been the story of your season so far, Charlie? Because you look at Fulham and they're on the cusp of European places and pushing for that, especially with ourselves and Bournemouth, who are like the 21-22 kind of graduates of the Championship, all upsetting the rest of the Premier League, which has been great. You'd look at Fulham and kind of say you've been inconsistent, but also consistent at the same time. It's very strange to put my finger on it, but maybe you can, because you watch them every week.
I think our main underlying factor this season that I think that we have mainly struggled with, this is sort of what I just touched on this season. For me, the key between us being where we are in 9th or Bournemouth where they are in 5th in European spot, the difference has been that we simply can't create enough chances consistently. We have one solid method of attack in Anthony Robinson and Alex Iwobi down the left side. That's just a major positive side for us. But when you look more essentially, and even to our strikers who have got criticism this season, we only really play to their strengths, and players that we need to utilise more, like maybe Emil Smith Rowe, we aren't doing enough, and that's been key to how consistent we've been. And I think, say that you sat with a low block against Fulham, you're guaranteed a good result. It's simple as that, really.
January's just been and gone as well, Charlie, and I was wondering what Fulham maybe wanted to do more of or not, or maybe do less of. I don't know. I know Willian's now come back for a third spell of his. He must love it in West London.
Yeah, I think the money might pay a factor though, but I think the West London lifestyle certainly does attract Willian. Yeah, 100%.
What did you want Fulham to do more of in the transfer window? Where did you see somewhere that you needed to strengthen and maybe that you didn't do?
Well, I think that most Fulham fans are reasonably happy with Willian coming in. Like, I can't say that I'm unhappy about it. There's no doubt that he's to some level a decent player, but let's not forget that he's now like in his mid-30s. There was a fantastic tweet like when we signed Willian, it was we have replaced a 35-year-old Willian with a 36-year-old Willian, because that is essentially what we've done. I think that for me, like a more dynamic, direct winger would have been a massive get for us, and Willian is a bit of, stopgap, so I suppose you can't run too much. But at right back, for me, that's our biggest weakness. We've got, I think that your biggest method of attack, for Saturday, will most likely be down Castagnet's side. I think our right back area is a massive weakness since Kenny Tetty's injury, and we didn't bring any right backs in. So for me, not bringing a right back in for 6 months where we could potentially challenge for Europe or go far within the FA Cup, for me, that's a massive, massive blow, having one fit right back.
Yeah, and you mentioned about the left-hand side. Anthony Robinson has been unbelievable this season, along with Alex Iwobi, who I kept taking in and out of my FPL team. And then every time I took him out, he'd go on a bit of a purple patch, and I just never think he'd sustain it. But he has done this season. Are they the two main standouts for you this season, would you say? Is that correct?
Yeah, for me, I think that you give some mentions as well. I'll give mentions to Sander Berger and Sasa Lukic from the middle. I think they're a top midfield too. I think that they work really, really well together. I think they complement the style that Silva plays fantastically, and to combat losing a player like João Palhinha with Sasa Lukic and Sander Berger, I think that we, instead of bringing in one marquee acquisition, we replaced it with two players in a different, within different roles within the midfield. So I'd give a special shout out to them, and maybe Calvin Bassey as well. I think he's been superb this term as well. But Robinson and Iwobi, they're certainly going forward. They're probably our brightest spot.
What makes them so good and so dangerous? Because we're like, our right side is really strong as well. So it's going to be an interesting battle when you look at that. They got Iwobi and Robinson against Aina and Elanga potentially. That's kind of just pace and skills basically, and vibes.
For me, I think what actually makes them so good is when you look at our plans of play, they both become sort of. They have also built up within the last sort of 18 months such a, I think, bond together. They sort of can work with each other really well. I think that it isn't even individually how good Iwobi is or how Robinson is. Don't get me wrong, they're both fantastic players, especially Anthony Robinson. For me, he's the best left back in the league. But I think the actual partnership of playing together and creating these patterns of play, that is what I was saying in the first half of Newcastle. That is our main avenue for our attacks, really, which is sort of why we've been found out in some games this season. So yeah, that partnership, 100%.
Yeah, you mentioned about the right hand side and Castagna potentially being your weak point. Why is it that that your weak point, and what is it that gets exposed so much for Fulham? Because I've seen so many different little things as well, like against West Ham away, like Bernd Leno giving the ball away twice sort of from the back, and just rubbish goals like that. Never, like, you're not getting carved open or anything from what I've seen anyway.
Well, listen, I think that mistakes like Leno's are sort of, as the podcast name goes, Fulhamish, right? I think that is a perfect illustration. Giving the ball away, we were banging on the door the whole game against West Ham, and we obviously lost 3-2. But there you go, it's a different story. For me, I think mate, I'm going to be honest with you, the question should just gone through my head. I'm so sorry, man.
It's just all right. I'm just wondering why the right hand side is that weak point. You said about the right back being somewhere to exploit. Why is that?
Yeah, Jack. I think that Jack Collins said this on Twitter. You know, he is a member of the podcast on Fulhamish, and he said that. I think that the key between our right side, it isn't just Castagne. Maybe I'm being harsh on him, but Newcastle especially majorly targeted Castagne. They put lots of balls into the channel, frightening Gordon to chase on Castagne's side. But part of it is that next to Castagne, you've got Anderson, who isn't exactly the fastest. So I think that you've got on that side, you've got a real lack of pace. And when you've got nobody to back up Castagne, maybe say that you had Diop, who's more physically astute. Maybe you could cover better for him. But that right side, I think the prospect of Anthony Elanga playing against Timothy Castagne and Joachim Anderson, I think that's a major worry for us Fulham fans on Saturday, 100%.
Yeah, well, last time we met, it was one of the most turgid 1-0s that we've lost, I think I've ever seen, where it's a penalty out of a bit of nothing. But it was pretty much a 0-0 game apart from that moment where you got a penalty. We didn't, and we got upset about it. And
that's it.
Fulham had a great day out because you got 3 points with probably the easiest 3 points you'll get this season. But what's your thoughts been? What's your thoughts been on Forest since that game? Because I think we'd be in Liverpool by that point, so we kind of thought, well, Fulham will be all right, and then that kind of is a turn up for the books. But yeah, what's your thoughts been?
Listen, I think Forest are there for a reason, you know. I think that Forest are a great team. I think Nuno, as a manager, I think that he has utilised the strength that Forest have got defensively with, for me, maybe two of the best centre backs in the league in Murillo and Milinkovic. 100%, they were top back too. I think that Nuno's done really well to sort of make use of that in the way that Forest play. I think that there'll be a tough game for Fulham. For me, the difference between Forest and Fulham, or a team like maybe Bournemouth, but Bournemouth are closer to you in Forest, is how clinical you've been. I think that you've got a striker in Chris Wood who's a clinical striker. We maybe don't have that as much. We've got Jimenez and Muniz who are decent strikers. But I think Forest are a team to me that looks together, sort of as a unit. There's no certain individuals, apart from maybe one or two where you go, they're fantastic players. You can go through that team and look at Fulham's team, and maybe on an individual level, they may be similar. But as a team, with the infrastructure that Nuno has built, I think that I think that you will be probably in the top 6 this season, which is obviously a dream.
Yeah, that'd be amazing. Maybe go on your UEFA Cup run like Fulham did under Roy Hodgson. I remember watching that; it was great. I did want to ask you about this because I know you said you wasn't sure about this bit that I'd wrote to you, but Tom Kearney said on Sky Sports when we played Liverpool that he didn't know how Forest could sustain what they're doing because they don't have the ball enough. And then you've mentioned about Fulham playing against low block sides and it being difficult. So that kind of coincides for us to try and hope we should have a decent day out if we're on it basically. And Fulham don't have an answer for our counter attack basically. What would you say about it?
So yeah, I think that you've hit the nail really right on the head there. I think that the way that Forest play with maybe a slight, obviously with less possession, as Tom said, obviously, that caused maybe some controversy within the Forest fan base. I think that sets up perfectly for Forest to get through. I can't see a positive result really from our side. Obviously, we did earlier in the year in September. But I think with Forest at home, maybe there was slightly more onus for you to get on the ball. But at Craven Cottage, I think there's more pressure on us to dominate the ball, and I think that will fit Forest fantastically. And I think that you'll probably look to exploit Timothy Castagne and get Elanga in behind him. And I think it's going to be a tough game.
I mean, I don't think you'll commit formation or team selection suicide like Fabian Hertzler did last week in the Premier League when he left poor Jack Hinshaw on his own in the middle of the park just to get absolutely overran. And obviously we won 7-0 in that game. I don't know how, but it's still kind of a pinch yourself moment. But are you fearing Anthony Elanga especially in this game then, or is there a few other players that you might pick out and go, I don't really want them to get on the ball too much?
He's the man that I sort of pinpoint for Forest, and that's not only our weaknesses, but his form recently, and the way that he plays. I'll put it this way as well. Callum Hudson-Odoi, I think that he's obviously injured, but I think that he would have been a major asset for you coming up. I think I even look at, ex-Fulham man Nico Williams. Can he get down that side with like Anthony Elanga sort of from both going down on that side? I think that we would really struggle to work with that, and we've got a set list of injuries, sort of out wide. And I think that say that you get two down that side, is a player like Adama Traore always going to track back with his man? I think that you can easily create some overloads on that side, and I think that could be a major right for them. I think that I'd look at Williams, Elanga. I think that we're reasonably assured in the middle. I think that Chris Wood could get a goal, but I think that will most likely come from Anthony Elanga. So I think that Elanga and that whole left side of Forest is probably what I'd pinpoint.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're hoping Callum Hudson-Odoi is back fit now because he's been back in training, especially they've been away in Dubai and he's been part of it. But because we played a different formation against Brighton and it seemed to really work, obviously winning by such a big margin, then I'm not sure if there's going to be any changes there, because it'd be a bit harsh on a team that's just won 7-0. How do you see you guys setting up? Because I'll bring your team up from Newcastle up on the screen and I'll read it out for listeners. So the Fulham team against Newcastle, if you don't know, it was Bird Lennon goal, Castagna, Anderson, Bassi, Robinson across the back four, Sasa Lukic and Sanderberg in the middle of the park, Adama Traore, Smith Rowe, Iwobi behind Raul Jimenez. Do you expect much change from this team, Charlie, or would it be harsh, obviously, getting a really good result at St James's?
I think that you look at that side. For me, the only player that might come into that 11, I think that Emil Smith Rowe, he was better in the second half, but I think that, like Andreas player, you mentioned that we played against Wigan last Saturday as well, sort of in between the Newcastle and the Forest game. And I thought that Prey was quite impressive. Obviously, he came on against Newcastle and got an assist as well. So I'd probably expect Prey to come in there, and that'll probably provide for them with some more steel sort of in the midfield. And I'd look at that and I'd say it's probably going to be about the same. There's potential for Wesley Diop to come in for Anderson. I'd probably do that, but still seems to be very faithful to Anderson. So I'd say apart from maybe Andreas Prova coming in for North Smith, I would expect much of the same.
Yeah, that's fair enough. And I mean, it's going to be a really, really interesting game. How do you see it playing out? Because I think both our styles of play almost pretty much predict that, where I expect Fulham to have quite a lot of the ball and us to sit back and try and trap, basically. I think that's kind of written in the stars, essentially.
Yeah. I think for me, I think that say that Forest can stay into the game, and obviously Forest are a good enough side to do that. Of course, I think that they may be favourites on Saturday. Obviously, we're at home, but still, I think that you guys say we are so poor. When we come out of half time, we must be the worst side live in the Premier League from minutes 45 till 60. It's can Forest get out of sight by sort of the 80th minute? We have a very good record late in games. We've already done it at Chelsea away, Brentford at home, some big games this season, and Newcastle as well, where we scored late on. I think that say Forest can get a sort of a lead going into the 80th minutes, they can get a 2-goal lead. I think that would probably be Fulham's spend. I think that an early goal for Fulham would be massive to sort of reinstall some confidence, because this Fulham team, I think the Fulham crowd can sort of get on the Fulham players' backs after 30-40 minutes a little bit. It can get a bit groaning. So I think I can see Forest coming out the blocks at half time, nicking a goal 1-0, and maybe you nick win the 85th and that season. I'm not very confident in this game. I'm not very confident at all.
I'm really shocked by that, because Fulham have got such a good record over Forest. We've not beaten you since we've come back into the Premier League. And the last time we beat you was obviously in the promotion season at Craven Cottage, where Zinkernagel closed down. I can't remember who was at centre off. I think it was Tim Ream, actually, and then the goalkeeper. And there was a big mix up with the goalkeeper. So I'm really shocked at how you're not that confident of going into it. I'm a bit like here and there, because I don't really know what to expect from Fulham. Obviously, a really good side. I love Marco Silva. I think he's such a good manager, and I think he's someone that I'm surprised he's not been touted for a so-called bigger side than Fulham, because I just think he's done such a good job there. And he's done a good job at most places, to be fair, where he's been given the chance. So I'm a bit surprised by your lack of confidence, Charlie. But where do you see Fulham getting your joy? Because I think Bournemouth pretty much did the blueprint for the Premier League, I think, because they absolutely, I mean, not only was they clinical, but they just destroyed us all over the park, to be fair. I think with how incisive they were as well with their passing through everywhere, basically. It wasn't even just through the middle of the park, it was everywhere.
Yeah. I think sorry to sort of repeat myself from what I said earlier in the podcast, but I think say that Fulham try to stick to attacking from Anthony Robinson and Alex Iwobi from that left side, and I think that Nuno is tactically sort of smart enough to sort of create an overload on that side, sort of counteract against that. I think that say that Fulham can sort of get Craven playing, get Smith Rowe playing, Hurst playing in the middle, say that we can try and create numerous avenues of attack. Maybe we could exploit Oluwaina on the side of like Donald Traore, sort of getting him behind. But say that Forest start low block, I think that would be quite tough to do. But I think how I look at it is, I think say that we can get some crosses into the box against Milinkovic or Murillo. Maybe do you think that Murillo's a sort of great defender in the air? Do you think that Jimenez could sort of get the better of Murillo in the air?
I mean, he's been a lot better this season, but I think that's mainly due to Milinkovic being next to him. But I think Murillo's weakness is definitely in the air in terms of if a player can get across him and is slightly bigger than him, then he's always going to struggle. And Raul Jimenez's movement's always been really good, and he's been good this season. I think for Fulham, he's led the line really well. So I think that's definitely an avenue for you. And I think getting early crosses into the box is definitely something that could cause us problems. Wolves did it really, really well in the game that we played there, and we ended up winning 3-0. But to be fair, Strand Larsen should have scored at least twice. So, and crosses early doors from both fullbacks really causes a lot of problems. So I think if Robinson and Castagna or Traore, Iwobi, whatever, can get balls into the box early enough, then it can cause us some issues, because if teams allow us to get set, we're kind of a bit of a wall in there. It's kind of, it just goes straight back out, and then it's about whether we can win that second ball and counter, basically. So yeah, I think that's the area of being able to exploit us, I think, because Alanga will help, and if Callum Hudson-Odoi plays on the other side, they will help the fullback quite a lot. Or you get Elliot Anderson or whoever else is playing central midfield with him, they will come and overload to win the ball back, essentially. So I think if Fulham move it across quite quick, then you can definitely exploit some sort of space, especially with Smith Rowe or Andreas Pereira playing in that middle of the park as well.
I think that I sort of echo what you're saying now. I think that say that Fulham can move the ball quickly, that's when we've been at our best all season, sort of regardless of opponent. But that's been what has been probably most criticised about Smith Rowe, is he gets the ball, he passes it sideways, it's a bit slow, it's a bit lackadaisical a little bit. Say that Fulham can move it quickly at a light, get it to Anthony Robinson, get it on the underlap, the overlap, and get some balls into the box. Obviously, we spoke about Murillo there. I think that Muniz or Jimenez, whoever comes on some fresh legs with Muniz, of course, I think that is probably where Forest could be targeted.
Do you ever feel like the press from teams now as well? But because that game was that a bit of a one-off against West Ham where you gave those 2 goals away? Because it doesn't really strike me, because I think Anderson and Bassi are both comfortable on the ball, aren't they? Really, I mean, Bassi's been a revelation this season. Some of the runs he's made from centre half have been superb. I think, did he nearly score a goal against Chelsea where he dribbled past the whole team?
He's done it numerous times. When we were playing more through at the back, you'd probably get 1-2 of those runs a game. I think that now that we've gone back to a 2 at the back, we haven't really seen that as much. I'd say that I'm quite confident in Fulham's ability to beat the press. All that I'd say is, you look at Calvin Bassey. I think that he's been obviously you spoke about him there being fantastic this season, which he has been. But I think that distributing the ball, he's a bit hit and miss still. I think that's sort of why we brought Anderson in, to be a bit more assured on the ball. So I still think, say that you press Calvin Bassey, you could probably get some joy there. But in the midfield areas, I think that we are quite slick, or we can be when we want to be. Shown at Newcastle, I think that was major to our success.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's the season of Marauder in centre halves, and Murillo, Dean Huijsen, Calvin Bassey. I mean, you could probably name a few more. Van der Ven is definitely someone who can do that as well at Tottenham. So that's interesting. I think the midfield is definitely an interesting one, because I don't know if we'll stick with Danilo and Anderson in there, or Anderson will get partnered with someone else. But it's a lot of athleticism, I find, with them, with at least Sasa Lukic, Anderson, and Sander Berg. Sander Berg's a bit of a thorn in our. I don't even know what the word I'm trying to look for. Someone probably in the comments will tell me, but he's a thorn in our sales sort of thing. Like, because he seems to play really, really well against us, especially when he's at Sheffield United or Burnley. Just turn up somehow, Sanderberg. So strange, but yeah. What's your score prediction for the game, Charlie?
My head, I'll be honest with you, it says 2-1 Forest. I've got to be not to come across as negative. Normally, I'm quite the optimist, but I think that your play style compared to our play style, for me, the game plays perfectly in Forest's hands, and this isn't me trying to caretell to the Forest fans here live on the podcast. But I'll say with my heart, I'm going to say 1-0. We're going to row him in his header. There you go. Put your bets on that.
To be fair, I think as someone who's travelling to the game as well, I've never been Craven Cottage, it's my first time going. So I think I'm just looking forward to a good game of football. I would be happy with a point, to be honest, because I think Fulham was such a difficult place for Forest to travel to recently. I mean, we got beat 5-0 last season where Steve Cooper was just probably about to be sacked, and it was a bit of a tools down sort of performance. So yeah, I'm really intrigued, and we've got such a tough run of games now that I think if we can get a result here, it gives a lot of belief to supporters and the players that we can go on and get a European spot in some capacity. So yeah, really looking forward to it. But if anyone wants to find any of your work, Charlie, where can they do so? I know you've got Blancos Away as your Twitter handle there as well.
That's my Twitter. For my work, and obviously for most things Fulhamish Pod's the place to go on Twitter, on Instagram, all your social media, you can get it there, and all your podcasts as well, Apple, Spotify, the whole thing. But my work, yeah, Fulhamish Pod for me.
Real nice one, mate. Thank you very much. But until next time, when we review the Fulham game, which will probably be on Sunday, we'll see you then. Come on, you Reds.